Welcome into the final edition of Hoosier Gameday for the 2022 season. I'm Jack Edwards, not joined by Kylee Metzger as usual. She's a bit under the weather. We have Carlo Barone. Very happy to be here with you, Carlo.
I'm glad I get this call. Definitely got it with a lot of time in advance, so I'm glad to be here, Jack.
Carlo's very humble. He was ready about 8:30 a.m. this morning that I texted him. He was, I'm ready. I'm there. I'm your guy. So up for it, Carlo Barone is. Indiana football last week, less so, 56-14 defeat to Ohio State. I mean, number 2 team in the country. Did we expect anything different from that game?
You know, I didn't expect anything less, but just seeing it again it's not hard, or it's hard to watch almost. You see the team fight all year to not get blown out, and they get blown out last week against Penn State, and then they go into Ohio State and they get blown out again. So it's just 2 punches in the face that this team really didn't need, and it officially knocks them out of bowl eligibility as well.
I mean, it was always going to be tough with that being your do-or-die game for bowl eligibility. Some numbers on the game. Total yards of offense, 662 for the Buckeyes, 269 for Indiana. No math expert, needed to kind of say there's a big discrepancy there. Any positives, I guess, to glean from this game from Indiana, at least from your vantage point?
I mean, the only positive I would see is it's got to be the emergence of Dexter Williams. He came in, first drive, leads them to a touchdown, throws a touchdown to A.J. Barner. It's kind of quiet the rest of the day, but he still finished with 2 touchdown passes as he threw the second one to McCauley. But he's the future of the program, so seeing him shine against Ohio State on a few drives, it's definitely more positives than negatives if you're an optimistic Hoosier fan. Obviously, the rest of the game was pretty rough, but seeing the emergence of Williams, especially with his ability to scramble outside the pocket and extend plays, was definitely good to see for the future and next season with this team.
Well, I mean, his first play from scrimmage that he had when he came into the game, 16-yard scramble that I think is kind of just unique for him as a player. You don't see that from too many other guys. So for Bazelak, in terms of kind of on his end, he had 3 drives where he's pulled. What did you kind of see from that decision-making from Tom Allen to kind of not give him too much leash before kind of yanking him back off of the field?
I mean, all season, Bazelak and the offense have kind of they've gotten a rhythm of getting in 3 and outs where it's just run, screen, and it doesn't work, and it's 3rd and long, and they don't get it. So he had seen enough of that with Bazelak, and they pulled him. I feel like this move was kind of predetermined before the game. Obviously, with Bazelak getting injured the other week, and then they threw Williams and a bunch of other quarterbacks in too. I feel like that was more of a test run for the rest of the year. And after they saw the same things that they had seen all season, I mean, might as well pull him. For Williams, that did play well in limited action against Penn State.
Some younger guys are getting some minutes. Dexter Williams, second, the sophomore, having a big appearance. Experience is invaluable, no question. The quote from Tom Allen in the middle of the week. Long term, though, I guess is where you have to look for Indiana. In terms of the quarterback situation, is Dexter Williams the guy, at least in your eyes, heading into next year?
Well, if he's not the guy, he's definitely in the competition to be the guy. I think going into next year, he will be the number 1 guy in training camp. But it depends. Obviously, we have the transfer portal. We got Connor Bazelak this year through it. So it depends who comes through the transfer portal. But if they stay with the roster they have right now, Dexter Williams should be the week 1 start.
Long term is the big discussion point for Indiana now. Bowl eligibility gone. Got to look to the future. For more on that, here's Kylee Corman.
Many Indiana fans have already given up on the 2022 season, and this week, head coach Tom Allen began to look to the future as well. On the weekly radio show Inside Indiana with Don Fisher, Allen revealed more than ever before about the impact of name, image, and likeness on the Indiana program. Allen referenced Ohio State head coach Ryan Day's statement that he needs $13 million just to maintain his current roster. That's a budget that Coach Allen says Indiana does not even have 1% of. To put it into Indiana perspective, Coach Allen said last year he had about $150,000 across 8 players. Anyone who has watched an Indiana football game this year knows this is a struggling program to say the least. So what now? Another announcement came this week. Hoosiers for Good and Hoosiers Connect jointly announced a pledge for $1 million from an anonymous donor. The money will provide funding for 2 NIL collectives who pair student athletes with charities and businesses. And according to Indy Star reporter Zach Osterman, football is expected to benefit. Still a drop in the bucket next to Ohio State, but a step forward from Indiana after Tom Allen said you either, quote, get on board or just get run over by the train. Jack, back to you.
Well, thank you, Kylee. Some great insight there. Carlo, cash rules all. is it as simple for Indiana that they just need more money to be more competitive?
I wouldn't say so. Obviously, more money would help. You mentioned before the broadcast that only 8 players are getting salary from the university through NIL. I would say that their winning on the field's got to come first before they can get more money. If they do win on the field, I think it'll generate more money with the athletic department. But first, it comes with the winning, and they have to solidify themselves as a good program so recruits are going to want to come to Indiana and get NIL deals and play through their deals and get on the field and actually win games. No one's going to come here to lose games and get paid.
Yeah, I mean, the clip that Rivals reporter Mason Williams posted about 8 minutes from that Inside Indiana football show, it generated a lot of discussion. And I think a lot of people sided with you, Carlo, that you could have a better footballing product. Yeah, money would help you bring in better recruits, but the footballing product does need to improve in a lot of different aspects. And I guess for Indiana, the focus now turns to Michigan State and Purdue as your final 2 games of the season. No longer bowl eligible. Does that change anything for you, Carlo, in terms of what you want to see, in terms of what Indiana could try and put onto the field in these final 2 games?
Well, their season is over after the Purdue game, obviously, but I think the last 2 games they need to focus on more for next year and getting those recruits that have committed to IU to stay, or the guys on the roster that are thinking about transferring for them to stay, which means that Tom Allen's going to play a lot of the younger players and get them experience on the field. And who knows, if they go out and they play 2 competitive games against Michigan State and Purdue, both pretty good programs, then that's encouraging for the program. It's a good end to a really, let's be honest, a bad season, a disappointing season. So if they go out and they compete the last 2 games, that's going to keep players on the team and keep them motivated through the offseason that maybe there's hope for next season.
We won't have a show for next week, so this will be our final predictions of the year. Carlo, I'll toss it to you first in terms of what you expect to see in this Michigan State matchup. What's your score prediction in this one?
I said on the podcast this week, 28-23 Michigan State. I think it's going to be competitive. I think it'll be a little bit closer because if you remember last year, Michigan State was a lot better than Indiana, and Indiana was a lot worse than this season. And that game was still close in Bloomington. Now it's obviously in East Lansing. I think it's going to be close, but I think Michigan State comes out on top. Just not by a field goal, but they stop Indiana late and they get their win.
You know, I'm actually gonna kind of revert to my early season tendencies. You know, we're kind of having the tail end of our show here today. I was very bullish on Indiana's chance after they won 3 straight games. I was saying, oh, they'll beat Cincinnati, they'll beat Nebraska, they'll beat everybody, they'll beat Ohio State and Columbus.
Yeah, of course.
I didn't say that. I'm going to give Indiana a win for this one. I think it'll be kind of a bittersweet moment almost where right when you become bowl ineligible with 7 straight defeats, you finally get a win. I think they'll win a narrow one. I think it will just be a nice culture moment for Indiana. I think it'll be a 24-21 game. That'd be big, man. I think if you get a win in these last 2 games, you can't understate that. You don't want to end the year on 9 straight defeats. That would be, it's a simplistic way to view it, but I guess the last thing from you then, Carlo, is for that Purdue game, obviously you don't want to forecast too far in advance. Anything you want to see from that, any expectations you have for the Old Oaken Bucket game?
I mean, surely we'd like to see them compete and have a good end to their season because it is the last game they are playing. But what a way for an IU team to go out. If they go out and they play Purdue the last game of the year, Purdue's the top of the Big Ten West. What a way for that team to go out if they spoil their chances to play in the Big Ten championship game. Look, as a Hoosier, for the Hoosiers team, that would be the perfect way to end their disappointing season. It would be to spoil their rival season. Obviously, Purdue's bowl eligible, but a loss in the last game of the year to a 3 or 4 win Indiana team surely won't help their bowl game, what game they get into, or the standings.
That would be a no one wins scenario for in-state football in Indiana. It'd be interesting to see what ends up happening there because really the chips kind of falling across the Big Ten matters more elsewhere than it does here in Indiana. Well, that is going to do it for Hoosier Game Day for here today and for this season. We'll be out for next week for Thanksgiving break. For our producer, Mike Gray, for Kylee Corman and Carlo Barone, for Callie Metzger, Emma Watson, Lauren Brewer, all of our guests all season long, I've been Jack Edwards. We'll see you next week.